Okay, guys, so now you've turned your bell work in, which was page 172, numbers 52 through 55, which was a review of multiplication of decimals. So we're going to go ahead and move on and look at what we're going to be doing today, which is I can divide decimals by whole numbers. So we are moving on. We've done multiplication of decimals by a whole number, decimals by decimals, and now we're going to look at dividing of decimals by a whole number, and later on we'll look at dividing decimals by a decimal. So, the first thing that we're going to do, I want you to write down dividing a decimal by a one-digit divisor. Yes, Jocelyn. This is right here. Dividing a decimal by a one-digit divisor. So when we're looking at a division problem, and you have it written horizontally, and usually you'll kind of see it with the traditional division symbol there. Which of these numbers goes in the house? The one on the left or the one on the right? Left. The one on the left, correct. So once we've written this down, then we're going to go ahead and write it to where we can work it out. So we're going to have 2 going into 6 and 8/10. So when we did addition and subtraction, we did something with the decimals. We brought it straight down. We dropped it down. With multiplication, we had to add how many numbers were behind the decimal and then make that the same for our answer, right? So there's a little bit more of a trick to it. Who knows what the trick is with division? Topanga? Okay, take the decimal away, possibly. Aaron, what do you think?
Decimal up.
Right. The decimal goes straight up. So in addition and subtraction, we drop it down. In division, we bring it on up. You can ignore it, kind of like we do with the others, but you've just got to remember what to do with it, okay? Okay, so when we're looking at this, remember, we start here with the first column. So how many times can 2 go into 6? 3 times. So 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. So I've divided, I've multiplied, now I'm going to subtract, and then I bring down, okay? I know that's kind of spread out. How many times can 2 go into 8? 4. So 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 minus 8 is 0. So your answer here is 3 and 4/10. Okay, nothing too scary. Nothing too scary at all. Okay? Alright, so I want you to do a few problems, practice problems on your own. The first one is 7 and 5/10 divided by 3. So let's look at how we're going to set this up.
It's pretty good. Like, if you hear the decimal, you know what it is.
True, but then you've got to remember where to put that decimal. So remember, the 7 and 5/10 is what is going in the house. So you are working on this right now. Working on solving this problem. Josh?
Will anything have a little weird?
No.
Good. Yeah. No.
And then you can move on to C. If you finish that one. That's a fancy 7 there. and then D. So working on these three problems. So we've got three problems posted up here, the one we did together and then these three. I know the 7 looks a little funky, it's got a little swirl on it. It means. Okay. Wait. Okay, let's go ahead and look at these problems. Even if you're not finished, let's look at them. So the first one, 3 will go into 7 how many times? Twice, okay? So 2, and 2 times 3 is? 6. So now I'm going to, what?
15.
Subtract. I bring down the 5 to get 15. 3 will go into 15 how many times? 5. 5 times 3 is? 15. And 15 minus 15 is? 0. Now notice that I completely ignored that decimal and did this like 3 going into 75. But then I'm going to make sure that I put that decimal straight up, because here my answer is 2 5/10. Alright, let's look at the next one. Can 7 go into 3?
Yeah.
No, 7 can't go into 3, but it can go into 35 how many times? 5. And what is 5 times 7? 35, and 35 minus 35 is 0. Alright, now, so let's look at this. We're going to bring that decimal straight up, and you might even go ahead and have a 0 here to show 5/10. Good work. Okay, looking at this one. How many times will 2 go into 9? 4 times. And 4 times 2 is? 8. 9 minus 8 is? 1. I bring down the 8 for 18. How many times will 2 go into 18? 9. 9 times 2 is? 18. Subtract for 0. Alright. Now I've got to remember to what? Bring that decimal up for an answer of 4 9/10. Any questions about dividing with single-digit divisors? Okay. Alright, now let's do some practice looking at dividing a decimal by a 2-digit divisor. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay, so what did I tell you about which number goes in the house? The first one or the second one?
First. Yeah.
Oh, I wrote that the same way. Okay, so, and if it's easier for you to look at it with this symbol, okay. So when I look at this, you're telling me, yeah, it's the first one. So I'm going to have a 14 on the outside and 7 7/10 on the inside. And you're thinking, well, Miss Adams, 14 is not going to go into 7. I can see that look on some of your faces.
Get rid of the decimal on them.
Okay. I could add something here, which I want to go ahead and add. Remember, what's our safety net with decimals? Add a 0. So I'm going to add a 0 here, okay? Just bear with me here. Okay.
14.
Okay, so Chase is dead set on this. Just get rid of the decimal. Ignore that decimal. Okay, and you can. You can completely ignore the decimal. All right, but sometimes adding that there's can help us visualize a little bit better. So, can 14 go into 7? No, it cannot. So, I'm gonna put this 0 here, just to kind of hold that place. But how many times can it go into 77? 5. All right, and what is 5 times 14? 70. Okay. So 77 minus 70 is 7. Now I can bring this 0 down. And how many times can 14 go into 70? 5. And 14 times 5 is 70. 70 minus 70 is 0. Final thing I need to do is bring that decimal up. So, the reason why we added the 0 was because if we didn't, we would have had a remainder. And when we're talking about decimals and we end up with a remainder like that, then you add on a 0 to kind of keep going, okay? So you're going to be faced with problems where you might, if you get a remainder, add a 0 on, and for the problems that we're working on, if you divide it out one more time, it should come out evenly and not have a remainder. Yes, ma'am?
So what if it's like 100 divided by 33? I mean like 100 divided by 33 equals 30.
Then you can still add zeros on.
Yeah, because it'll be infinite. Actually, a little.
Okay. All right, so let's do a couple of practices. I'm going to write these in the house just to be able to see them a little bit better. Oh, I wrote that. No, I didn't. Start working on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, working on these 3 problems. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about these problems. If you didn't get finished, make sure that you're writing them down with us, okay? So, the first one, we have 9 and 48/100 divided by 15. Can 15 go into 9? No. What about 94?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but then it's like, well, I don't know that off the top of my head. Well, guys, I don't know that off the top of my head, okay? I'm going to come over and work that scratch work. I can use my clues of what I do know, Like, I know that 15 times 3 is 45, and double that is going to be 90, so 6, right? Okay. All right, so then you would have had a 6 up here. 6 times 15 is 90. And then subtract and bring down. And you've got 15 going into 48. How many times will 15 go into 48?
30.
3 times. Okay. What is 3 times 15?
30 times.
Close.
45.
45. Well, then I subtract and I have a remainder of 3. Again, have we talked about anything to do with remainders this year?
Nope.
No. So what can I do now? What is something that I've shown you that you can do? We can add a 0, and I'm going to do it in a different color to help you see that. So I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to bring this 0 down. How many times can 15 go into 30? Twice. 2 times 15 is 30. And 30 minus 30 is 0. What's my final thing that I need to remember to do?
Bring up the decimal.
Going to bring up the decimal. And put that 0 here. So here, my answer is 632 thousandths. Okay, let's look at the second one. Can 4 go into 3? No, but it can go into 34 how many times? 8 times. 8 times 4 is? 32. 34 minus 32?
4.
Is 2. I bring down the 9. How many times can 4 go into 29? 7. 7 times 4? 28. Whoops. Great. What's 29 minus 28? 1. So, this was a 7. Okay, if I add a 0, and I'm going to switch colors, add a 0 and I bring this down, right? How many times can 4 go into 10?
2.
Twice. What's 2 times 4? 8. What's 10 minus 8? 2. Do I still have a remainder?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to add another 0. And I'm going to bring it down. How many times can 4 go into 20? 5. 5 times 4 is 20. I'm adding zeros until this looks perfect is what I'm doing, guys. You can do this with decimal problems. What's the last thing I need to do? Add that to, no, we are not. When you are dividing decimals, and that's a really good question. Dylan asked, can you just put an R and have the remainder there? When you're dividing with decimals, you keep going out at least as far as you can to where it would be a pretty answer like this. Or as you get older, you'll start doing problems where maybe it'll start repeating and then you put the repeating bar across the top. But for our sake, for what the problems that we are doing, your final answer will not have a remainder. You might have to add a couple of zeros, but that's all you're doing is adding a 0 and dropping it down. Adding a 0 and dropping it down. Okay? All right, let's look at this last problem. Can 17 go into 5?
No.
No. Could it go into 55?
Yes.
Yes. How many times?
3, 4. 3.
You tell me. You're the one that's looking at me like you're questioned. 3? Okay, what's 17 times 3?
51.
51. Good. Okay, 55 minus 51? 4. Bring down to 0. How many times can 17 go into 40?
2.
Twice?
5.
What's 2 times 17? 17 plus 17? 34. Okay. What's 10 minus 4? And I bring down my 8. Okay. 17 into 68. 4?
4.
Okay, what is 17 times 4? 68. What's the last thing I need to do? Put this decimal up. Okay? I'm going to show you your independent assignment. I want you to work, but guys, I want you to pay attention. When you are working, please space out your problems. Do not scrunch them all together. Do not number ahead, number as you go. Okay? Alright, the assignment that you're working on is on page 175. Look very closely. You're going to do 1 through 11, but don't do number 3. Okay? And then do number, that's weird. Why did I write that way? Okay, yeah. Do 1 through 11. It's 10 problems, because you're taking out number 3. Okay?